Welcome into Edge of Philly Sports and the Painted Line Eagles pregame live. It's the Battle of Pennsylvania. Steelers, Eagles will be back. Me, Chris Dives, with analysis, predictions, matchups, everything you need to know to get ready for today's 1 o'clock game. Hell yeah! The Philadelphia Eagles coming off the bye, 6-0, ready to face off against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 2-5. How you feeling, Chris?
Feeling good, man. How can you not feel good if you're an Eagles fan right now? The Eagles are, as you said, coming off a bye. They're undefeated. They're a plus 56 in point differential compared to a minus 55 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. And if they win today, it'll be their best start in franchise history. Let's get it.
Speaking of franchise history, I don't know if this is like a crazy rival. We play them once every 4 years, but it's cross-state rivals going back. There's a lot of history with these two teams going all the way back to 1933. Of their 80 matchups, the Eagles have won 48 of them. Cool fun fact. Well, two fun facts, really. There was a mess up in the paperwork when these two franchises were signed. And initially, Burt Bell was supposed to own the Steelers, and Rooney was supposed to own the Eagles. Now, imagine the way these two franchises would have went if that's how it actually happened. And another cool fun fact, as a kid, and I always thought this was fascinating, when you go and you're a little kid in the library and you go pick that Eagles book, let's say, that at one point in time during World War II, 1943, the Eagles and Steelers actually merged together as a franchise to be called the Steagles. And that was the they were 5-4-1, the first technical winning year for the Eagles franchise, which is hilarious. So what is your take on this, I guess, rivalry? And do you have any disdain for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I do not. I've always been kind of, I'm going to say it, a little jealous, especially over their success. I have no disdain when it comes to Mike Tomlin, Bill Cowher. Like, I've always been kind of jealous of how they played football, how they've always been able to, churn out success, especially defensively. I'm a 90s Eagles, Jim Johnson kind of fan. So I've always been attracted to how they play and get after the quarterback, up until, this year. I think it was 5 straight years they've led the league in sacks defensively. So I've always kind of liked how they played. So I'm not one of those Eagles fans that like hate the Steelers. Like, I think the Eagles have won 9 straight at home against them. So there's not, like, for me, there's just no real rivalry unless, during those McNabb years, there were a couple chances that we could have seen them in the Super Bowl going against each other, which would have been a little different. We never saw that, of course, but for me, it's not. It's nothing.
Jealousy is a big word there, and I think you are correct. And that kind of leads to some. I won't say I hate the Steelers per se, because over there I was rooting for them all out. Actually, this is probably kind of a violation. I saw a picture when my dad had passed of me and him in his Steelers jerseys, and that was that Super Bowl because we hated Dallas so much. So I root for them over there. Again, that situation. The only thing I don't like is all of a sudden, like, you don't see the Steelers country signs on the lawns, do you, right now, Dives? They're nowhere to be found. But playoff time, suddenly on all these lawns are Steelers country. And I'm like, is it Steelers country over here? Or are you just coming out of the shell now that you have a winning season? You don't see them anywhere. I don't see any terrible towels around. Yeah. I don't see them anywhere now because they've the fans on this side of the state have hidden away. So with that, let's get into today's matchup. Let's start with the Eagles offense versus the Steelers defense. Eagles offense has looked good overall this year. But I'd be remiss if I don't mention that it's really been a second quarter offense. They're averaging 18.7 points per game as a team, really, because I guess there's some defensive touchdowns in there. 18.7 points per game in the second quarter. The Steelers don't even average that per game as an offense as a whole for all 4 quarters. So, but that is a concern with the other 3 quarters there. And then you have a Steelers defense that, as you alluded to, is a shell of itself. Like, they can't stop the pass. They can't stop the run. They don't take the ball away. How do you feel this matchup is going to play out?
Yeah. For me, you start with Jalen Hurts, of course. Jalen Hurts against this lack of Pittsburgh Steelers pass rush. That's what I'm looking at here. The Steelers have the 4th worst pressure percentage at 13%. It was no good against last week. I think they played the Dolphins. I think they had 0 sacks and only 1 quarterback hit. Jalen Hurts has been terrific, as we know. Will that continue? I think if everything kind of continues, he's going to probably end up 3rd in MVP voting, which is an absolute insane statement to make here, probably behind Mahomes and Josh Allen. But you look at this Steelers pass rush, it's not good. And TJ Watt will not be in this game. And I think an area where Jalen Hurts can really exploit against the Pittsburgh Steelers is the Steelers are a team that have given the most yards in the league on quarterback scrambles this season, 129 yards on 16 carries, and the Eagles rank 4th in quarterback scramble yards this year. So you're going to see the Steelers play a lot of man coverage. They do that 37% of the time. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity for Jalen Hurts to get out of that pocket and get good chunks of yards in those RPOs and things like that, which we know the Eagles love to do. So my first matchup to watch 100% is Jalen Hurts. And does he continue to take that next step? If there was one question mark about Jalen Hurts is him against the pass rush. We haven't really seen that much of a development. It's been a little bit better, but it's still like low 50s when it comes to completion percentage. And the good news for Eagles fans, there's no one really that's going to be threatening Jalen Hurts on that defensive line or defensive front 7 for the Steelers. And the Pittsburgh Steelers run a lot of light boxes. So yet again, as we have seen all year, the Eagles are going to go up a defense that loves to run light boxes. And I just don't see any way they slow Jalen Hurts down today.
One nugget I took away from that, and is kind of my matchup, is the man-to-man defense, how they love to play some man-to-man. The light box, obviously, as well. So that brings my matchup. I think this is a big A.J. Brown day. Maybe even Eagles receivers across the board. I mean, you got Cameron Sutton and fellow Witherspoon. The secondary has not been great. The only shiner to me is Minkah Fitzpatrick. And, I really would love to see this man-to-man matchup and the Eagles actually throw some go balls, let the receivers go up and make plays. And if there's a guy to do that, that's going to be A.J. Brown. So if I have A.J. Brown in fantasy, not that I wouldn't be starting him anyway, but I'm starting him this week as well as like a daily fantasy one as well. It would be nice to see Hurts and the Eagles offense throw the ball deep down the field. I'm really excited to see that. With that light box, they can also run the football, which brings to your other matchup. What do you think about Mr. Miles Sanders?
Miles Sanders, man, the Steelers love to run those like 4-2-5 fronts. You're going to see, again, more light boxes this week. And if the Eagles want to run the football, there's going to be a lot of opportunity there. The Steelers have really struggled against offenses that want to spread you out. And I love your A.J. Brown pick because the Steelers have allowed 585 yards and on 134 carries on the ground. That's 4.4 yards per carry against 11 personnel, which we know the Eagles love to do. Going back to just A.J. Brown, the big thing to watch here is on third down. That is huge because the Steelers' third down defense is really bad, especially getting after the quarterback. The Steelers have faced the most third down pass attempts this season, and they have given up the most yards. They average 9 yards per attempt on third down. And when you look at the success of this Eagles offense, especially on third down, I think they're first or second in terms of third down conversions. That's a really good advantage the Eagles have pointing in their direction.
Yeah, they were first going into that Arizona game. I know that. And then we kind of didn't do too well in that Arizona game. So I think we fell off the second. But still, it's just outstanding, conversion rate from what we're always bitching about third downs. And this year's been a year on both sides of the ball where we seem to be able, to convert. So moving through that, and hold on, let me pull up. We had a question here. Thanks, and I forgot to mention, if you're listening and watching, thank you so much. Please subscribe to the Painted Lines, Edge of Philly Sports. Smash that like button. Share our stuff out. We need the support. We really appreciate it. We love doing this stuff. We had a question here by Steven Numerski. Sorry if I pronounced that incorrect. Any key injuries today? I would say, the Eagles, as far as getting Lane Johnson back, that's not a key injury, but a key non-injury, I guess you would say. The Steelers have been decimated, their secondary, by injury all year. The guy's name's escaping me. The backup, Josh Jackson, the cornerback, he's questionable. Don't know if he's going to play, but it's a groin. So their depth there. And then obviously the Steelers, there was these rumblings that like TJ Watt was going to play this week. And, they interviewed him and they were leaving it like a question mark still. But the tweets were very misleading. If you listen to it, he was not going to play this week. Maybe after their bye, he was play. So I'd say, the Steelers defense without TJ Watt. Any injuries that you see, Dibes, that could impact this game?
The Brandon Graham was a limited participant in practice up until Friday. So you might be concerned about that, but you've also got Robert Quinn, who's going to be getting his first taste in midnight green. I think the biggest thing is probably on special teams for the Steelers. I know they're hurt when it comes to it. They're missing their regular kicker.
Boswell. Yeah.
So outside of that, there's that. But for Eagles, I don't think there's that many concerns at this point.
So moving from there, we're going to get into the Eagles defense versus this ugly, everything's ugly about the Steelers, but ugly Steelers offense. The Steelers offense, they're averaging like 15 points per game. Fans are just so annoyed at their offensive coordinator. They do a lot of shotgun, RPO. I think they're in 11 personnel, like 76% of the time or something like that. The Eagles defense still number one in takeaways. They're averaging 2.3 takeaways per game. I mean, that's a huge stat. If you're taking the ball away from the offense 2.3 points per game or times per game, you should win that game. And then they're fourth in points per game as well. We're only giving up like 17.5 points per game. How do you see our Eagles defense matching up against this offense for the Steelers?
Really good. And it starts with, matchup-wise, for me, Darius Slay and James Bradbury versus Deontay Johnson and George Pickens. Little like fun fact, I'm really excited to watch George Pickens play today. He was my favorite guys in last year's draft process. So I love that selection for them. And he's had a really, really good season. He's got 7 plays of 20 plus yards or more this year. So he is their big play threat. If you're going to see big plays from the Steelers, you're probably going to hear George Pickens' name. But the bad news is Slay and Bradbury are probably the top cornerback duo in the NFL right now. The Eagles' pass defense is arguably also the strongest part of this roster as well. The Eagles are giving up 4.9 yards per attempt, which is second best in the league. The biggest thing why I picked this is because if the Steelers' pass attack is going to hurt the Eagles, it's going to be on play action. The Steelers' play action is by far their most effective way to get the ball downfield. They're 15 of 18, 83% completion percentage, 8.8 yards per attempt, which is a massive leap forward to their usual attempt. I think they averaged like 5.8 yards per attempt throwing the football last week. So play action is where it's at for them. The bad news for the Steelers is the Eagles only allow 53% completion percentage when defending the play action, and they've got 2 interceptions, which is the most in the NFL. So their strength against our strength, it's basically neutral. So if there was like one advantage you could point towards the Steelers offense, it gets completely negated from the amazing play of Darius Slay and James Bradbury.
And we get Avonte Maddox back this week as well, I believe.
Yeah, he should be back.
That's huge. That's huge because the tight end was becoming an issue for me if Cooper Rush didn't stink so much, he had Dalton Schultz all over the place. So, that's good. We get Maddox back. The matchup for me is it's not actually a player matchup. It's Jonathan Gannon. He gets crushed for not blitzing all the time. If there's a team not to blitz, it might be the Steelers. The Steelers actually have a pretty good success rate against the blitz. I believe it's about 66% passing through the air. And that's, you got a mix of Pickett and Trubisky in there. 320 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 INTs. So it's not like they're killing it scoring-wise, but they're not turning the ball over when the blitz comes, which is kind of what you're looking for when you blitz. That's a matchup to see if the Eagles' regular front 3 or 4 can get enough pressure to just let the Steelers do what they do, which I believe versus the 3-4, I think it's only 2 touchdown passes, like 9 interceptions. The turnovers come, it seems, when you let them just run their offense. As that odd as that sounds, don't pressure them. I guess when it's pressured, they get the ball out quicker, and that allows them not to turn it over. That's my big matchup there. What else you got?
No, I just piggyback off of that. Like, this is definitely a game. You get this team in like 3rd and 5, 3rd and long situations. Just sit back in that zone coverage and just make Kenny Pickett beat you with his arm. And I don't think he's going to be able to do that with the amount of talent the Eagles have in their secondary. But you kind of touched on it, like Kenny Pickett versus Matt Canada is my matchup. A lot of people are not very happy about Matt Canada. He's their offensive coordinator there in Pittsburgh. You're going to see a lot of short underneath throws. You're not going to see them move the ball downfield. It's kind of a predictable, stale, boring offense, but the Steelers are still kind of that same identity as we know. Like, the defensive side for the Steelers has definitely changed this year. They're definitely in transition mode, but they still want to pound the rock on the ground. That's what they're going to want to do. And my matchup to watch is Najee Harris versus TJ Edwards. Harris only has 1 game this year with over 4.0 yards per attempt on the ground. This team is the 4th worst in rushing touchdowns, the 7th worst in rushing yards per attempt. They don't have a single run this season over 20 yards. So that bodes really well for for the Eagles and Jonathan Gannon to completely eliminate this Pittsburgh Steelers ground attack. You're going to see a lot of no-huddle, shotgun-based offense using those RPOs. They're going to want to kind of run early and often, but I think TJ Edwards, this would be a really good game to kind of like get back on track and kind of cement himself as one of the best linebackers in the NFL. There has definitely been stretches where he has been absolutely dominant. So for me, I look at Najee Harris versus TJ Edwards, a guy who has had double-digit tackles in 3 games this year. And I got to say, like, if you're a Najee Harris fantasy football owner, you probably wouldn't look the other way because the Steelers' offensive line is not good at creating rushing lanes, and I expect the Eagles' defense to kind of shut that down here today.
To piggyback off that a little bit, they run out of the 12 personnel majority of the time, but what's ironic is when the Steelers are in 11 personnel, which is 76% of the time, the Eagles actually, when they go up against 11 personnel, their run defense goes off a little bit. It's about 5.3 yards per carry, so that's a pretty big gash. So I'd be interested to see if Matt Canada has any kind of adjustment. Maybe try running the ball out of 11 personnel a little bit against this Eagles defense. See if they get some success there. Quentin Moore brings up, I was hitting on it a little bit. I think this actually is a big matchup here. I think Pat Freiermuth against our secondary. Yeah, now I know it's going to be the linebackers chipping them. It may be some Avonte Maddox, depending on the personnel set at that point. Play action out of the 12 personnel. I agree, Quentin. I think the tight end is something to watch, no doubt about it.
That Freiermuth. Yep.
So we don't talk about it any week, but it's becoming an issue because they're going to cost the Eagles one of these games. I feel like we always talk about it at the halftime show and post-game show. We got to now bring it into the pregame show. When is this Eagles special teams going to cost them a game? Because it's coming.
Hopefully never. Actually, like, if there was a game to cost them, this probably wouldn't be a terrible loss, given it's an AFC opponent. But it's been terrible. It's been terrible for a long time. And the good news is, like, they're struggling as well. over there in Pittsburgh on special teams. The guy you're going to be looking at is a guy named Gunnar Olszewski. It's a guy they signed this offseason away from the New England Patriots. He's got 12 yards per return on 74 career returns. He was an all-pro returner just a couple of years ago. But their primary guy, Sims, is hurt. So you're going to see this Olszewski guy quite a bit, but he hasn't had a good year. He's got 2 fumbles. So as bad as the Eagles have been, I think they're going to kind of escape just barely here against Pittsburgh.
And they got Boswell banged up, as we spoke about earlier. That could be some missed field goals for the Steelers.
Yeah.
With a name like Gunner, though, I feel like he should be a gunner, like running down tackles. But as the return man, that'll be interesting to see. Good fun fact there. Let's get into what are we going to do? Well, we'll do player of the game, and then we'll do predictions. Who is your player of the game?
You go first.
All right, I'm going to go first. I'm going to stick with my matchup. I think A.J. Brown goes off today. I agree with you. This is a big Jalen Hurts day as well, but I just feel like it's going to be easy. Like, just throw the ball up to A.J. Brown. Let's not play games here, and he's just going to dominate. I'm talking like 180-plus yards, 2 touchdown passes, and at the very least, if they decide to double him, put Fitzpatrick over the top, then you got to go Devontae Smith. But A.J. Brown, no doubt, he's my player of the game.
I'm going to go Miles Sanders. I think he has a big game here today for the Eagles. I just don't see any way the Steelers match up against this Eagles rushing attack. Eagles, again, are going to go up against another light box that is going to allow them to kind of cement their will offensively on that line of scrimmage. And the Steelers just do not match up with the Eagles. I see Miles Sanders getting a few pretty decent runs in this one. As long as he doesn't fumble the ball, I see at least 100 yards from Miles Sanders today. And I'm going to go Miles Sanders. I was going to go Jalen Hurts because I also don't see any reason why they should slow him down. But I think the Eagles run the ball a lot in this one, given the Steelers defense and that 4-2-5 defense. So Miles Sanders is my pick.
It's funny. If both of our picks are correct, it's going to be Jalen Hurts because his stats are going to be ridiculous because you'll have Miles Sanders with running, but a ton of catches out of the backfield. And then you'll also have Brown going off. And then in turn, Hurts is going to look great. So that's funny how it will work that way. All right. Prediction time. I think it's pretty based on Vegas and the way we've done this pregame show, how it's going to go. But the Eagles come in 11.5-point favorites now, according to FanDuel. You could probably get 11 somewhere. Over-unders about 42.5. I say that to play into the score. What's your prediction? I'll go first. I want to give you the end here. All right. So I think this is like from a better standpoint, a layup. Like Eagles all day. Let me take the Eagles. And with that said, that is the only reason. I think something's going to be weird in this game. We're coming off the bye. The Phillies hype with the World Series. All that stuff's going on. And I just feel like it's going to be one of them games that the Eagles are in control, but you get a late field goal at the end or a late touchdown that makes this a 10-point game. I'm going to go 21-12 Eagles.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely.
No. Let me pull that back. That little more scoring. Let me go 24. I know it's only field goal. 24-14 Birds.
Love it. All right. I definitely see that on the table because, the Eagles are coming off a bye. There's a very good chance they kind of slow start here offensively. Who knows? Like, I keep waiting for that Joe Webb game where they face a quarterback and he just tears us up. But that's not the vibe I get with this Eagles team. I had during my earlier show this week, I had them at 31-17, and I'm going to go even better than that because TJ Watt is not playing. He wasn't really projected to play, but there was a chance he's not playing today. So for me, I'm going to go 31-14. The Eagles get the W here, and I think this should be a pretty easy Sunday.
Let's go to the fans here. I like it, and it's a lot. I'm wrong. A lot of people think it's going to be close. So if everyone thinks it's going to be close, I think it'll be a blowout. But besides Steven here, he's the only one with kind of a blowout, 37-19. You got Quentin Moore, 27-20. Wow. A lot of people are scared of the Steelers team here. The game will be close, 28-21, Anthony Aids. Well, guys, I really appreciate you chiming in, your comments, listening. Please smash that subscribe button. Please share this. Before we go, we want to get into everything going on here on the Painted Lines at Edge of Philly Sports Network. We have a little calendar here with all the stuff on the Painted Lines as well. Party on Broad in there, Birds of the Round Table, Chalk Talk, Kelly Greenhour. You got some Phillies fighting final. You got Edge of Philly Sports, the show I'm on intermittently right now with my son's health. But that's 8:30 Wednesdays. Just go look at the calendar. There's a ton of stuff going on. Devereaux Sports, Patterson Ave Fanatics, Philly Press Box Radio, great guest as well. And if you're into lacrosse, we got hockey, everything. 4 for 4, 5 for 5, even some Union in here. So you can find. I said where you can find me, Dives. You're everywhere as well. The Painted Lines I'm so glad we came together and worked together because I learned so much from the stuff you guys got. It's amazing stuff you got going on over there.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah, we'll have Party on Broad tomorrow for sure. Definitely Sixers post game as well. I don't know what the heck I'm going to do with this Phillies situation because I'm hurting. I'm just recuperating from these games. They don't end till like after midnight, and I'm not a night owl. Like I get tired at like 10 o'clock and I'm out. So I don't know what I'm going to do about the Phillies game and staying out. I'll probably have to just wake up early first thing Tuesday morning. So definitely expect all the Sixers content. Jalen Hurts video breakdowns, Jordan Davis video breakdowns for sure, and then pretty much everyone else you can think of. And I agree with that, Quentin. How about the Sixers saving Doc Rivers' job these last two nights? Because that was very much in question. And Joel Embiid with that game winner. So yeah, there's a lot going on, man. There's way too much going on that I can even barely keep up with.
This is the October we always talk about as a fan, but us covering the stuff, it's like, holy shit. And shout out to you, man, getting that Sixers stuff still going. You're so consistent. Awesome. Check out every Sixers post game. I'm on there here and there, but it's just great guests, great content there. You got to check to get Sixers stuff with Sean Barnard there. And Tiago, I'm on there, and there's plenty of other great guests. So check out Edge of Philly Sports, the Painted Lines. For Chris Dives, I'm Freddie Burns. We'll see you at halftime. Tune in here at halftime as well as post-game live as well. Go Birds.